Okay, so if you can start with the simple one as to how you first got involved in the IT industry, whether it's something you've done, all your career, or you started somewhere else and ended up there, just the career path.
Yeah, so I guess thinking like back to when I was young, I've always been interested in computers, in technology. When I was a kid, I used to kind of be into gaming. I used to build my own computers, but didn't really think of necessarily doing that as a career. It just happened really. So I was interested in maths and science, electronics at school, and just really followed what I was interested in, kind of, and just kept doing that really through like college, university, and just kind of naturally fell into it really.
Okay, and just interested, I mean, when you were in your sort of educational career, were you aware that being a girl or a woman in that sort of area, you were unusual? Were you in classrooms full of a bunch of blokes and yourself, or did you never struck you that you were sort of slightly unusual in what you were pursuing in terms of IT?
Yeah, so I guess from college studying electronics there, I was maybe the only girl. Maybe there was one more that was studying electronics. So yeah, that was definitely very kind of obvious there. Then when I went to university and I was studying physics, a few more women, but again, very, very unbalanced, very male dominated. So it was always very obvious that it was, I suppose, unusual for women to be studying in those kind of areas.
Okay, and in terms then of how you've ended up at Mimecast, it'd be good to understand, where you started out in the IT space and how you've, as I say, how you've got to where you are, currently with Mimecast.
Yeah, so after my PhD, I was kind of set on leaving academia and going into the real world, and so I was kind of looking around for jobs for quite a long time. It was even though I've got quite a decent academic background, it was still very difficult to get into this sector, having no kind of formal experience there. But I was kind of looking around and drawn to jobs in the kind of fraud, cybersecurity area, and eventually found one working for HMRC, so the UK government, doing kind of tax risk analysis and fraud detection there.
Okay, and then from there, did you go straight to Mimecast, or do you have other sort of steps along the way?
Yeah, so from there I moved into another government department, so Department for Work and Pensions, and there initially it was much more focused on cyber attack detection. So they were at that point in time undergoing huge digital transformation, setting up the new universal credit system, which was moving all the benefits online. So they were really concerned around protecting like the identities of all the UK people who were interacting with the benefit system, and pensions as well. As well as all the money, protecting access to all the money that's being paid out in terms of those benefits. So cyber was a kind of a huge kind of focus over there. And then of course it moves on to fraud. So when you think about benefits, you often think about how people try and exploit the benefit system. So that became another kind of massive area of focus over there.
Okay, so I'm almost imagining that if you started sort of helping whole government departments in terms of their IT and cybersecurity, anything after that is almost a bit of an anticlimax, but that's probably not the case. So what drew you to Mimecast, having started out doing sort of government type IT projects?
Yeah, so one of the really kind of exciting things about working for a company like Mimecast is, you're working for the government, so yes, you're protecting a lot of people, but really it's like one organization you're working for. But with Mimecast, because we have around 40,000 customers, many of those in government and loads of different sectors, really, you get to kind of protect loads of different people, and you get to see lots of interesting data, lots of interesting types of attacks that are focused on different kinds of companies. So really the kind of the stuff you could do is in some ways much more interesting than just working for one organization.
Okay, and in terms of the sort of challenges you've bumped into along the way, would you sort of categorize most of them as just standard career type issues that you've had to overcome, or were there any stages where the fact that you were a woman in perhaps a fairly male dominated environment would cause you any kind of issues that you needed to overcome?
Yeah, I think most of them were probably pretty standard. Like I mentioned, actually just breaking into the industry in the first place without any experience behind you. That was pretty difficult. One of the kind of major like personal problems that I had to work on was like I had this huge fear of public speaking, which again I think is pretty common for a lot of people, but soon realized that you've got to kind of present, you've got to talk to people in this industry, you've got to share your work. So that was something that I had to work on. And I guess thinking specifically about being a woman like in this industry, I think combined with the fact that I'm naturally an introverted person, when you're working in a world, particularly in the leadership where it's dominated by male extroverts, it can again be difficult to break through into leadership when there's that natural bias for people to try and kind of work with or want to work with, want to raise up the people that are most like them. So I suppose that's the one challenge.
Right. Okay. And in terms of challenges and just sort of as you've developed your career, have you been lucky with mentors you've had who've helped you address these and just generally welcome you, as I say, and assist you on your career? Or have you found some atmospheres where it's you've been aware that you're pretty much on your own and it's up to yourself to sort of get where you want to go?
Yeah, I think I have been really lucky. So I've had various mentors, like worked with executive coaches who have helped with, particularly the public speaking and the kind of, I suppose, outward confidence, that side of things. So I've been lucky in that sense. Also within the industry, I've had certain role models, both male and female, who've helped me kind of along the way and given me opportunities. But also I think it's important to recognize yourself, what you need to work on, and when an opportunity does come your way, even if it makes you uncomfortable, then you need to kind of grab it and just push yourself to do it.
And in terms of what you've seen in the time you've been in your career, I guess, was starting as you said in government departments and then going into the sort of commercial IT world. Have you noticed an overall sort of improvement in attitudes to diversity in general and sort of, as I say, what's been traditionally a fairly male-dominated world to where more women are becoming involved in it's becoming more diverse, or do you sort of go home at the end of the day or the end of the week and go, oh, this is a bit depressing because I'm still in the minority and there's a long way to go?
Yeah, I think there is still a lot of work to do, but definitely have noticed improvements. So I still probably don't work with enough women, but I still work with more women than I used to work with. I'd say attitudes and diversity, yeah, we're going in the right direction. One thing like in particular that stands out to me just really since the pandemic and people working from home is the attitudes to kind of childcare, and how it's more kind of normal now for like men in particular to say, oh, I can't join this meeting at this time because I've got to take my kid to school or pick them up or something, whereas before they probably wouldn't have responded like that, and it may have been more expected that women might kind of respond like that and have the burden of childcare placed on them. So that's positive. Obviously there are still some issues. Like one thing in particular that annoys me about kind of the IT sector, one thing you still hear a lot is, like, I know the intent is good, but the kind of comment that to try and encourage women into the sector saying, oh, we have a lot of jobs that aren't technical. Like I know whether it comes from a good place, you're trying to make it more open, but it still gives the impression that technical jobs are for men and non-technical jobs are for women. So,
yeah, and I mean the IT industry at the moment is obviously crying out for people, vast amounts of skills required, I think, and it's an exciting industry to work in. So you perhaps I don't know, a little bit surprised that whether it's from an education point of view, and then a lot of people, I think, post-pandemic are sort of reconsidering, reevaluating, careers and stuff like that. I mean, it's a fantastic industry to work in, as I say, very flexible working potentially. Are you perhaps surprised that there aren't more, women finding it as a great opportunity or being encouraged to because of the flexibility and all the good things that are available to
them? Yeah, I suppose in a way. I mean, I have seen more like training courses advertised, like government sponsored training courses advertised, specifically trying to get people back into work, and they're really good. So hopefully we'll see more people taking those up. But I think really a lot of this kind of starts encouraging, women when they're children to take up these subjects, and encouraging them at school to pursue the subjects they're interested in, but also at home as well, and like the family, and if stereotypes are being enforced by family and what they're seeing on TV when they're children, then I think that's where the real issue is, and it's harder to change that mindset as they get older.
And in terms of Mimecast itself, does the company have specific sort of goals, initiatives around the diversity issue, or I know you work for them, but it's slightly, but do you think they do a pretty good job in general, or do you think they, along with many others, there's other things that perhaps can be done, or it's pretty good where you are?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, there's always more that you can do, but we do have several diversity groups, and a whole part of the organization dedicated to improving diversity. Every year we do an annual survey, and we publish the results for everyone to see and everyone to look at, to see improvements and problem areas and what we need to work on for the next year. So I definitely feel like at Mimecast we're doing a lot to improve it.
Okay, and in terms of the industry generally, if there's sort of one or two things you think that would be great for them to do, or to put it the other way, to stop doing that they're currently doing, what sort of things would you like to see maybe the industry do that would help particularly on the diversity side of things?
I think there's a few. So the magic wand, if you could wave that, just to instantly have more diversity, particularly in the leadership roles, so people have role models to look up to, and also you then kind of eliminate that problem of people trying to kind of hire the people that are like them. You'd naturally get rid of that issue there. So I think if you could do that, that would be great. But I suppose other things are trying to tackle that unconscious bias, so with more training and looking at recruitment processes.
And do you think, are you optimistic? Most of the people I talk to think that everything is more or less going in the right direction, but probably not at the the right sort of speed. But are you optimistic that at some stage, conversations such as we're having will no longer be necessary, just because the world operates as it probably always should have done, and we've eventually arrived there? But or are you a bit sort of depressed that it's slow, so that maybe even by the time you or I've retired, things will still be more like the old-fashioned way of doing things than, dare I say, where it needs to be?
No, I guess I am optimistic. I think nowadays things do change quickly. Part of that is down to IT really, enabling change to happen more quickly. So I definitely am optimistic, and I'd like to think that we wouldn't need to have conversations like this, or groups, diversity groups set up by the time I retire.
And in terms of folks looking to get into the industry, whether they're sort of school leavers or further education, or people looking to change their career, would you sort of wholeheartedly recommend IT? I think it's a phenomenally exciting industry, and with as you say, the way the world's going, everything's digital, so there's a computer somewhere in the background of most of it. So would you sort of unreservedly recommend it? And if there are any sort of diversity related issues, they're no better or worse than most other industries. So you wouldn't say to people, oh, be careful if you come in the IT space because you'll be treated a bit differently. Just thoughts around that.
No, I'd never kind of put someone off for that reason. It wouldn't kind of I suppose enter my mind. But I agree. I definitely think it's a great industry to work in. It's really exciting. You get to do different things every day, and you're always learning something new, and you have to keep learning if you want to kind of keep up. So I would definitely recommend if anyone who's interested.
And just on the role model point of view, perhaps the final question. I know most of the people that end up being on in the news from the IT space appear to be older male individuals, maybe most of them from America as well, but and that's nobody's fault, I guess, to a certain extent. They are the people who run those companies, so that's why they're in the news. But do you think there are potentially some great female role models that are just, if not ignored, unfairly hidden, where we should be singing the praises of some of those, or they should be getting more publicity, which would help. But the idea of getting more women into IT, or do you just think at the moment, sadly, there aren't enough women at those high-profile jobs? Therefore, there just aren't those role models for people to look at.
Yeah, that's true. I suppose it's a bit of both, really, isn't it? I think the pool, to pick from is definitely small, so that is an issue. But yeah, we could definitely do more to make sure that we are, making visible the people who are there, because they do exist. So it would, definitely be a great thing to put more effort into making those role models visible.
And I suppose, think about it, is part of the problem, because the media industry, which is, I guess, the one that would put the spotlight on those people, is that, again, dare I say, like, I'm not picking on them particularly, like so many industries, that again is perhaps a slightly male dominated. So everything is a bit like, well, we're going to look at Elon Musk or Bill Gates just because we're comfortable with them. Whereas if there was a high-powered female running a huge great company, they just might not be as likely to to highlight the success that she's made.
Yeah, I think that is a great point. I think definitely they're more likely to pick or want to put certain people on TV, and I suppose the criteria for putting a woman on TV can be slightly different from when they put a man on TV. So
okay, no, it's been lovely to chat. And in terms of, if there was sort of one piece of advice you would give to someone looking to maybe start a career in IT, what might that be, in terms of looking for a company that they can be comfortable, treats the issue of diversity seriously? Is it as simple as going to the website and just reading their CSR statement or whatever, or what other things can people do just to be sure that they going to the right sort of place?
So one thing you can do is look for reviews of the company. So there are particular sites like Glassdoor where you can read employee reviews, and they often give a very accurate picture of what the company culture is like. So I definitely recommend that. It's easy for companies to say they're doing stuff, but are they actually doing it?
Okay, that's great. It's been lovely to chat to you, and thanks very much indeed. Thank you.
No, thank you.